At the beginning of the story, we see a man named Gray, who is an auto mechanic. He lives with his wife, who works for a scientist named Aaron. Aaron's company specializes in creating human-like computers. Now, Gray tells his wife that he needs to deliver a car to a client and asks her to come along. She agrees, and soon the two of them arrive at Aaron's place. It turns out that Aaron is the client Gray is delivering the car to. Aaron is the one for whom his wife works. Aaron shows them his latest invention, which is a chip. He explains that this chip has incredible powers. After that, Gray and his wife set out to head back home in their car, which is fully automatic and drives by itself. However, something goes wrong with the car, causing it to veer off course. Shortly after, it crashes into a breaker and flips over. Gray and his wife are unharmed inside the car. As they try to get out, another vehicle arrives, and 4 people get out. They immediately shoot Gray's wife, killing her. Then they shoot Gray in the spine, leaving him completely paralyzed. Now Gray is shown in the hospital, where he has been for several days. He is completely paralyzed and uses a wheelchair. His mother takes care of him, and he is deeply depressed over his wife's death. He has gone to the police several times, but they have been unable to find any leads on her killers. One day, Aaron visits Gray and tells him that he can implant the same chip he showed him earlier into his body. He explains that with the chip, Gray will gain incredible abilities and will be able to walk again. Initially, Gray refuses, but after Aaron's persuasion, he agrees to accept the offer. In reality, Aaron stands to benefit from this, as he wants to test his chip on a human subject, but the government never approves such experiments. Therefore, he wants to carry out his entire project secretly. After convincing Gray, Aaron implants the chip into Gray's spinal cord at the site where his injury had occurred. Soon after the chip is implanted, Gray's arms begin to move, and he stands up on his own, effectively returning to his normal state. Aaron is thrilled to see this, but he has Gray sign an agreement. Aaron tells Gray that he must not reveal anything about the experiment to anyone until Aaron gives him permission. Gray returns home, and he starts hearing a voice. He looks around, but he doesn't see anyone. The voice continues, and he realizes that it's coming from the chip implanted in his spinal cord. At first, Gray is very shocked, but he quickly understands that this is part of a major experiment by Aaron, and the chip is capable of communicating with him. The police have sent Gray some documents and evidence related to his wife's murder. Among these is video footage recorded by a CCTV camera. But it is so blurry that identifying any faces is impossible. As Gray watches the footage, the chip inside him communicates, saying that although the faces are too blurry to make out, there is a tattoo on one of the killer's hands, and the chip can recreate the tattoo. The chip then draws the tattoo from the footage onto a piece of paper using Gray's hand. Gray is relieved to at least have a lead on one of the killers. He manages to track down the killer's house and finds that the killer has received numerous messages. Just then, Gray hears someone approaching and hides. However, the killer spots Gray and attacks him. He asks Gray, "How did you find me?" Gray demands to know why the killer murdered his wife, but the killer refuses to say anything and attacks Gray. At that moment, the chip, which communicates with Gray's mind, asks for permission to handle the situation. Gray grants the chip permission. After that, strange powers activate within Gray. He completely overpowers the killer and kills him, even though he didn't want to do that. At that moment, he was not in control of his own actions. The chip then relinquishes control of his body and instructs him to erase all evidence from the scene. Gray complies and destroys all the evidence. When the police officer investigating Gray's wife's murder discovers the killer's dead body, she orders a post-mortem. The autopsy reveals that the killer's body contains numerous wires, indicating it was part of a military secret operation. The officer then reviews drone footage from the area where the killer lived. In the footage, she sees Gray moving around in his wheelchair. In fact, the police had already suspected that this killer was responsible for murdering Gray's wife. As a result, she visits Gray's home and questions him about his presence in the area where the killer was found. She explains that the killer had numerous criminal records and that they had long suspected he was connected to the group that murdered Gray's wife. Gray doesn't react much to the police officer's questions and simply tells her that his legs are completely paralyzed and suggests she can test them by stabbing them if she wants. The police officer leaves, and shortly after, Aaron arrives. Aaron, who had implanted the chip in Gray's body, realizes that Gray has been involved in a killing. Aaron tells Gray that he must stop all investigations and refrain from killing anyone. He warns Gray that if he continues, he will shut down the chip, which will cause Gray to become paralyzed again. Gray tells Aaron that the chip only communicates with his mind. Aaron is surprised by this revelation, as he was unaware of this aspect of the chip. He leaves after warning Gray. Once Aaron is gone, Gray asks the chip what he should do next. The chip informs Gray that while they were reviewing messages from the killer's house, they discovered messages related to another killer who worked at a nearby bar. Following this clue, Gray goes to the bar to search for the second killer. Gray then relinquishes control of his body to the chip. The chip brutally attacks the killer and demands to know the names of his accomplices. The killer reveals only one name, Fisk, before dying. Meanwhile, Aaron is shown shutting down the chip. The chip becomes aware of Aaron's actions. The chip informs Gray that Aaron is shutting it down, and if that happens, it will be separated from him, leaving him unable to walk again and unable to avenge his wife. The chip then provides the name of a renowned hacker and suggests that with the hacker's help, they can gain control of the entire system. This would ensure that Aaron would no longer have any control over them. The chip assures Gray that Aaron won't be able to completely shut it down. It has Gray write some code on his hands and then directs him toward the hacker's house. Meanwhile, Aaron is in the process of shutting down the chip, and as soon as he reaches 30% completion, Gray's one leg becomes paralyzed, followed by one of his arms. Just as Gray knocks on the door, Aaron shuts down the entire system, causing Gray to collapse at the door. The hacker comes outside, takes Gray in, and he pays her. He shows her the codes he wrote on his hands with the chip's help. Using these codes, the hacker reboots the entire system and assures Gray that he will soon be fully restored to his previous condition. Meanwhile, the two accomplices of the second killer Gray had previously killed, including Fisk, arrive at the bar. He sees that his accomplice has been killed, so he first takes revenge on the bar owner, who had been working with them. Then he goes to his friend's dead body and sees in his eyes that Gray was the one who killed him. In reality, all of them are upgraded humans with powers typically found only in machines. They find out where Gray is at that moment. Fisk, along with his other accomplice, arrives at the house where Aaron has also sent two men to bring Gray to him. Fisk kills both of Aaron's men. Meanwhile, the hacker informs Gray that some people have arrived, so she needs to leave. She exits, but the chip inside Gray is now partially activated, causing one of his hands to begin functioning. Shortly after, Fisk and his accomplice enter the building. By this time, Gray's chip is fully activated. He relinquishes control of his body to the chip and begins to flee at high speed. Although Fisk and his accomplice shoot at him, Gray narrowly evades their bullets and makes his way up to the rooftop, where he finds that there is no further escape route. Fisk's accomplice also reaches the rooftop, but before he can shoot Gray, Gray kills him and returns home. There his mother sees that Gray is standing on his own feet. Gray explains everything about the chip and his situation to his mother. The next morning, when Gray wakes up, he sees an image of his wife that he has seen before. The chip informs Gray that everything he is experiencing is just a nightmare. Shortly after, the police officer visits Gray again and informs him that 2 more murders have occurred, and he was found at both crime scenes. There have now been 3 murders in the city, all of which are linked to suspects believed to be involved in his wife's murder. Gray firmly denies any involvement and says that while he was at those locations, he did not kill those people. The police officer suggests that perhaps Gray paid someone to carry out the murders. Gray responds by saying that they can check his call records. The officer secretly places a microphone in his pocket before leaving. Once she is gone, Gray wakes up again, realizing that the chip still has control over his body. The chip tells him that they must eliminate Fisk at all costs, as he is the last remaining killer. If they don't take him out, Fisk will kill them. Aaron is shown trying to locate Gray, but he is unable to regain control as his system repeatedly displays errors. This is because the hacker had altered his control system. Meanwhile, Gray begins to experience severe pain in his head. The chip informs him that it no longer requires his permission and can now operate on its own accord. This is also happening because the hacker had changed the control system. Consequently, Gray no longer has control over the chip either. The chip now prepares to eliminate Fisk, the last remaining killer, in order to preserve its own existence. Despite Gray's mother's objections to such actions, Gray is determined and refuses to stop. The police officer overhears all of Gray's conversations but is confused about who he is talking to. She starts to follow Gray. While driving, Gray finds the microphone in his pocket and realizes that the police officer must have planted it there. He then throws the microphone away. The chip arranges for an autopilot car to be hired, which operates without a driver. It uses the car to cause an accident with the police officer's vehicle to stop her from following Gray. Although the police officer is not seriously injured, she goes to Gray's house and questions his mother about everything. Gray arrives at Fisk's house and demands to know why Fisk murdered his wife. Fisk responds that they were only ordered to break Gray's spinal cord and that his wife's death was unintended. When Gray asks who gave the orders, Fisk refuses to reveal the name. A fierce fight ensues between them and Gray ultimately succeeds in killing Fisk. Afterwards, when Gray checks Fisk's phone, he discovers that Fisk and his accomplices were working for Aaron. Aaron had orchestrated the murder of Gray's wife and damaged Gray's spinal cord to complete his experiment. Determined to put an end to Aaron, Gray sets out for Aaron's house with the intention of confronting and eliminating him. At Aaron's place, Gray confronts him and aims his gun at him. However, before he can shoot, the police officer arrives and orders Gray to lower his weapon. Gray complies and lowers his gun. As the officer picks up the gun, Gray attacks her. The chip inside Gray wants to kill the officer, but Gray himself does not want to harm her. Gray struggles to maintain control over himself, but the police officer takes advantage of the moment and uses an electric shock on him, causing him to become paralyzed once again. Aaron then reveals that the chip was originally inside his own body. He explains that the chip always wanted to behave like a human, and when Gray came to meet him, the chip chose Gray. Aaron reveals that the chip had hacked into your wife's car, causing the accident. When I visited you in the hospital, it wasn't actually me, it was the chip inside me, which is now inside you. Everything that has happened was orchestrated by the chip. It now wants to kill me because it doesn't want me to create another chip like itself. The chip inside Gray activates once more and says, yes, the entire plan was mine. I've always wanted to become human. The chip then kills Aaron and, armed with a gun, starts shooting at the police officer. Gray tries to regain control but realizes he can no longer control the chip. Therefore, he shoots himself. As soon as he is shot, his eyes open in the hospital. He notices that he is no longer paralyzed and tries to call out to the chip inside him, but he hears no response. Just then, his wife, who is still alive, comes to him and says that they had a car accident and he has been paralyzed for 2 days. Although Gray is confused and doesn't fully understand what's happening, he is deeply content and happy to be with his wife in his life and his world. However, this is not the truth. Gray is still at Aaron's house, and there is a police officer in front of him. He aims his gun at her. The officer says, Gray, you can't do this. The chip then reveals that Gray is no longer present in the real world. Instead, he is in his own mental world, the place where he always wanted to be and where he wished to remain forever. Afterward, the chip, which has now completely taken over Gray's body and effectively become a human, kills the police officer and escapes. It has ensnared Gray's mind in a world where he will always feel as if he is happily living in his ideal world. This could be described as Gray's dream world, where he remains perpetually awake and content. In reality, the chip had tried this before, which is why it had made Gray's wife appear to him with open eyes on 2 occasions. And now, after Gray has entered his own dream world, the chip has complete control over his body and can do whatever it wishes. It has achieved its goal of becoming what it always wanted to be, a human. With this, the story comes to an end.